Ooh, a spicy question. I
because
love
the
it.
writing is sort of everything, right? Like you kind of can fix plot holes, but if the writing isn't
So some
there,
readers love that, and some readers are like, but I wanted more of this. So it's kind of a gamble.
Hello and welcome back to the Right and Wrong podcast. With me today is a YA and adult author of sci-fi thrillers and dark academia, one of my fellow co-hosts on the Chosen Ones and Other Tropes podcast, and my good friend, Naomi Gibson. Hello.
Hi. Thanks so much for having me. It's weird not having Welliver here.
Yes, I know. I was just thinking, it's been a long time since you've been on this podcast. We're always doing Chosen Ones, but it's been a few years, I think, before you came on Right and Wrong.
It has.
But you're here today. So let's start, as always, with the latest publication, and that is your upcoming dark academia novel, Man, Muse, Monster.
Yes.
Hit me with the pitch.
Oh, Jamie.
Come on.
The pitch is it's an adult dark academia about an artist, a struggling artist who uses a muse to further his career and discovers the true cost of greatness. Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. And this is not only is this your debut adult novel, but this is your first novel that's not a tech-themed thriller.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah.
So what prompted that kind of creative change of direction?
What prompted that change? So both of my YAs were kind of techie, like a little bit Black Mirror-y.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of my 2-book contract with Chicken House, it just meant that it came out that my books they'd sold, but they hadn't sold like amazingly well to really continue writing in that vein. And so I was asked to pivot, and I wrote a kind of like a botanical horror kind of thing, like a YA botanical horror. And Chicken House ended up rejecting it, so that probably never went anywhere. So, but I think actually being asked to write in a different vein probably prompted something in me also internally, and just realized that actually I can write other things. And it was really fun actually to write something that had no mobile phones talking to people and no computers doing their own little thing in the background and no VR going weird. And I was like, there are other things that are available for me as a writer. I can write other genres. And so I had wanted to write an adult book for a while, and I had actually written a couple of adult manuscripts. One of them was also a dark academia and went out on sub with my adult agent, which was then Cassia Lupo, and it didn't sell. And whilst that was on sub, I was writing something else, which was another dark academia, because I really just like, I really have a love for campus-based stories at the moment, and just like that kind of like, particularly if they're like really gothic and isolated, and just that kind of like enclosed world feeling, but you have like a kind of like a little encapsulated hierarchy within it. So you've got a dean, you've got students, you've got professors, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And so but I had also written I had also done a degree in art history back in the day. And, I've never really used it. People say all the time, like, oh, you never use a humanities degree. Well, tell you what, 15 years later, I proved you wrong. And so it was really fun to write about art. And I think actually I wrote this book for me. So I kind of wrote Man, Muse, Monster for myself, I think, probably. And I ended up giving it to my agent, and we sent it out on sub, and this one actually found a home. So there you go.
So here we are. Okay, that's interesting. So you'd already kind of been thinking about moving into adult, and then just kind of being prompted, I guess, by Chicken House to move into more horror. Horror fantasy, I guess.
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird genre mashup, if I'm honest. It's so Renegade, my publisher, are calling it a dark academia horromance. I would say it's probably I would say it is definitely dark academia because it's got that sort of campus sort of vibe. but I wouldn't say that it's really a horror or a romance either. So I think that's kind of why they were like, it's a horromance, and that's kind of like a bit of an industry buzzword at the moment. So got to get that in for marketing, you know.
Yeah, it does feel like horror, that the industry is trying to push, well, parts of the industry are trying to push horromance as the new like romantasy.
Definitely. I think whenever there's like a book fair, you always hear that editors are sick of romantasy, but they keep buying it. But I think they're all waiting for something else coupled with romance, and I think people are trying to push horrormance as the next thing. But I would say that anything that is so like a romantasy, I would say that probably has a romantic A plot, and everything else is probably a subplot. Whereas this is a romantic subplot. It's not the main plot. So I don't know. It's definitely got romantic elements, but it's not romance led, if that makes sense.
Okay, because the horror comes first. The horromance, not romanora.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, yeah, it's a different way around, isn't it?
Yeah, I was talking about this with an agent recently, and we were talking about how authors are clearly defining themselves as romantic fantasy authors instead of romantasy author, to let you know that a romantasy author, the A plot is the romance, and the sort of the world building is second to that. But a romantic fantasy author, the romance and the world building is kind of on equal footing, and that's kind of what we landed on. So that's what you're saying with the horromance here.
Yeah, I think there is a difference, isn't there, for romantasy and romantic fantasy. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, but what I do think is also interesting is, I think it's George R.R. Martin always says that I don't know if he always says this, he has said this, I believe, that he sees himself more of a sci-fi writer.
Okay.
And even though obviously Game of Thrones is the thing that he's most well known for, or Elden Ring, all my gamers out there, like all of those tropes can kind of quite easily be shifted into a sci-fi theme. So like the White Walkers are like a zombie thing that can be like a hive mind in space kind of thing. So when it comes to like your stuff here, like the muse, like you could make that into like a tech thing, you know what I mean? It could be interchangeable in some ways.
There's definite parallels between my muse and Henry that I wrote about for Every Line of You, for sure. Clearly just obsessed with that sort of speculative element, I think. Yeah,
of like almost creating your own monster.
Yeah, for sure. Little Frankenstein.
Yeah, so I guess it's not like unsurprising that you've kind of leaned into this side of things, and also there's definitely crossover between horror and thriller as like genres.
Yeah,
so it's a pretty natural organic progression for you, I think, to move from tech thrillers into horromance. I haven't quite got it rolling off the tongue yet.
Yeah, it doesn't flow quite as well as romantasy, does it? Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I think so.
Speaking of like the kind of growth of your style, let's talk about the process. We've talked about your process many times across the years on this podcast, and then on Chosen Ones as well. But when you first started, 100% pantser with Every Line of You, has that changed over the years? Have you sort of moved into different things and then come back, or do you feel like you write in exactly the same way as you wrote your first book?
Probably, yeah. So for Every Line of You, for all my books, I always really develop a character first, I think. I go in knowing what the character wants and what they fear the most, what worst thing in the world that can happen to them. I make sure I know that very, very clearly, and what they want, and then I just go in and kind of follow them around. I still don't plot. I still don't really. I think in my head I probably know the ending, and I just chase the ending. So I kind of know what's going to happen to my character. Will they get what they want? Won't they get what they want? And why? and I'll just chase that. But it probably does change halfway through the book. My ending in my head I might think of a better ending halfway through, and I'll be like, okay, I'll chase that now and just head towards that. So it's still just as chaotic. It's not very organized. The only thing I do is definitely think about a character and what they want, what their situation is. So for like this, for Man Muse Monster, my main character Harry. No, yeah, sorry, it's Harry. Sorry, I'm writing a different one right at the moment. I'm just getting confused. I keep writing Harry in my new book, and I'm like, no, his name's not Harry. So for Harry in Man Muse Monster, so he's got this like family legacy weighing heavily on his shoulders that he really wants to live up to, and they're all of his family are all really successful in the arts. So his grandfather won an Oscar for a best original score. He's got a Pulitzer Prize winning uncle who's a writer. He's got a poet in the family who was really well known, who's studied by school children. So he's just got a lot to live up to, and in order to push him to so my whole premise was that this artist finds a muse and they work together. And so in order for an artist to want to give up control and want to work with somebody else, I had to pile on the pressure. So he's got this massive family legacy weighing heavily on his shoulders, and he's got and he's also in this art school. He got a scholarship. He didn't get there, he basically was good enough to get in as a scholarship, but he feels the pressure from that because he's not good enough. He's not as good as everybody else, and he gets the most criticism in their crit class, and so that's more pressure. And then the other pressure was just that he's basically skinned. He's comes from this really posh family that just like the property is in the dumps. His uncle's an alcoholic. He's got no money, and the scholarship comes with a grant, and he spent his grant within like a week, and so he's just got all this pressure, and eventually he collides with this muse, and this muse goes, I can help you, and he's like, yes, help me. So I work that out before I go in. So my opening chapters were kind of like explaining this pressure and where it comes from, and then by the time you finally meet the muse, hopefully the reader's like, yes, go Harry, he's gonna get finally what he wants. He's gonna become great. He's gonna become famous. He's gonna be this artist. And then the rest of the book is about him working with that muse, his career kind of taking off. And then actually he realizes that actually maybe this isn't what he wanted, and maybe this is actually a really bad idea.
Okay. So there is sort of a plan to some degree, but your plan is you basically do you write out all of the character stuff? So for Harry, did you like have like a kind of piece of paper where you'd written out all of the stuff, or was it all just kind of collated in your head?
I'd written out some of it. So I like to do a little spider diagram. Probably I'll just have like my main character's name in the middle of the page, and I'll just shoot off like what's he got going on. Like he's this old, he looks this way, his family's like this, he's an orphan, that kind of thing. And so I'll probably have some of it, and then I'll go in and I'll probably discover other things as I go along. The one thing that I definitely didn't plan going on in was, so obviously Harry's a guy, my muse is also a guy. I very specifically wanted to gender flip it, but I didn't set out to write a romantic subplot between them. That was a surprise that came to me halfway through. I was like, oh, this is happening now. Okay, we'll run with it. So that's something I didn't really plan on. It wasn't ever going to be a romance. It was going to be like a straight horror where this guy realizes actually how horrible it would be to be a famous artist, and this muse was like this more sinister character, and he still is really sinister, but there's like he's a lot more vulnerable than he was, and so they kind of play into each other's like toxicities almost.
Okay.
It's a really toxic romance.
Yes. Okay, that's interesting. So there is like a physical, you know what, your planning actually sounds a lot like I spoke with Adrian Tchaikovsky long ago, and his planning, whilst the scope of it is somewhat larger because we're talking with his stuff, it's usually like universe, civilizations, empires kind of things. But his it sounds quite similar, but he basically just has like maps out all of the world, all of the politics, all of the characters. And then he just says, in a similar way to you, I think he's like, yeah, and then I just basically press go, press play. And he's like, everything is kind of predetermined because I know exactly what these characters are going to do. I just haven't written it out yet. And as I'm writing it, I'm like, yeah. And then they would obviously do that, and they would do that, and they would do that, and then this would happen.
Yeah.
So it's surprisingly similar, I would say, your two styles of writing. But you do quite a lot of prep work in terms of you really drill down on that character, and you're flexible to like move things around. But that's interesting, and I think that's a cool, if people are listening and they're looking for like ways to maybe try new things, try new writing techniques, just if you want to pants, like the spider diagram thing with a character, that's great. I think that's a cool thing to try. Yeah, very cool. And you're in great company. Didn't you do a panel once?
You do the same
with Adrian Tchaikovsky?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, no. I actually met him. We had a drink together. We never talked about that though.
You didn't talk about your process.
Yeah.
You're like, we're the same.
Hey, me and you, Adrian. Read my books.
In terms of writing, are you still working on YA stuff? Are you focusing on adult for now, or are you kind of juggling both?
Yeah, interesting question. So I do still want to write YA, and I have an idea for a YA book, but I haven't. I think there are other things that I'm more interested in, if that makes any sense.
Right now, yeah.
And I think actually my writing has naturally aged up, and I did write a YA, I think, last year in 2025, and I was reading it and I was like, I'm not actually sure if this sounds YA or not. It just so happens that the character's like 17.
Right.
So I think I need to be a bit more careful, because I think my writing, because I've written like 2 adult books back to back pretty much, and I wonder, and I also, just the way that I write books I think has changed a little bit, just in the voice that I use. I really am going through a third person binge at the moment, whereas I used to write exclusively in first, and I think maybe third sounds just a little bit more adult, like, because a lot of YA books tend to be first person, and not that a third person book can't be YA, but I think if you're going to pick a YA book off the shelf, it's probably going to be first person. And so just the fact that I seem to have switched to third probably doesn't lend itself as nicely to YA, but there are the odd YA writers who do third. So I think I just personally seem to have changed my voice, what I'm interested in writing about, and the way that I write it as well. So I probably am focusing more on adult, just I don't just where my brain's going, but it's not that I don't want to write YA.
Just for now.
Yeah, but also just I'm so busy, like I have a full-time job. Book 1 comes out next week. I'm trying to redraft book 2. I've got edits from John on what could potentially be book 3, and I've got this other adult idea that I've tested a couple of times, and so then there's this YA idea floating around the background. So I just I don't know. I think at the moment it's whatever shouts loudest in my brain, and I don't think YA is so much.
You got to write the thing that you're energized about, or the thing that you're on contract for, obviously.
Exactly. Yeah, the one that pays. That's the one.
It's an interesting time as well for YA. I've talked to a few people about this recently. Is that YA, because of things like new adult sort of solidifying itself as this kind of big new category, it is YA, I think, is kind of in a state of flux, and I think there's a good chance that where I see things settling now is that YA might age down, and it might become what it kind of was a bit more historically, sort of like 14 to 16, and then new adult might fill in the spot where some of the, in quotes, older YA has been sitting from like 18 upwards.
Yeah, I think it's definitely shifted, hasn't it? I think appetites have really changed. It's actually been interesting to see. And when you walk into Waterstones, sometimes on some of the book tables, there's these books that are going nuts on Book Talk, and I wouldn't say that they're YA. and they're in the
Yeah.
YA section. So
Yeah.
I think it's very mixed boundaries at the moment, like with what is considered YA and what isn't, and everything's just shoved together.
Yes.
So I think you're right. It's probably going to separate out. But do you know, if I got a book deal like tomorrow, I'm probably talking like a 2028 publishing date, and so by that time, will it have settled? I don't know. Will there be
Yeah.
clearer boundaries?
That's true.
I don't know.
Yeah, because I mean, you'll see Sarah J. Maas on YA tables,
Yeah.
and I'm sure if you were a parent of a 14-year-old, you probably would have mixed feelings about whether they read something like that or not.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, a part of me thinks that YA is going to become that kind of younger teen, which is sort of where it used to be, and then new adult will become the spicier stuff and the older teen stuff. But new adult also goes up to like 20s, so it's, who knows with these things. But maybe you'll find yourself settling back down into something more like a new adult than a YA.
Yeah, I wonder that. John floated that term past me before, and I think historically, it's always no one's ever known what a new adult really is. Like, whereas I wonder if you're right, that's going to become more of a solid genre, a solid category. Sorry.
Yes, it hasn't crystallized yet. The boundaries haven't quite been set. We're still kind of waiting. We're still in limbo. You mentioned earlier that you went back and read something that you'd written last year, and you were like, oh yeah, I don't know about this. Do you ever go back and read like your old stuff, and even something just like your published stuff, like Every Line of You or something, just to see how you've changed, or like if you haven't changed or anything?
Yeah, it's not very pleasant when you do. It's like, I wrote Every Line of You, right? And I was, that's my debut, my very first book ever to be published. And I was like convinced that this was going to change the world. And I don't know, it did very well. I got a lot of attention. It was, whatever. But looking back at it, and if I read it now, I'm just like, I don't know. It's not that I don't know, because on the one hand, it's got me where I am, and so I'm really proud of it in that respect. But on the other, I'm just kind of like, I would not write things like that anymore. I don't know. So yeah, it's kind of cringy.
it's like looking at a picture of yourself from like 10 years ago with a different dress style and like different haircut and stuff, and you're like, ugh, what was I doing?
I know, that's it. It's like you just get anxiety about something you said to someone once, and it's like, actually it's just a whole book and the whole world's read it, and now you're like, ugh.
Okay, well, that's fun to know. And that brings us to the point in the episode where last time you were on, it was I marooned you on a desert island, and the book that you chose to take with you was, do you remember?
The Binding.
It was The Binding, yes, Bridget Collins. But now it's I've saved you from the island, and I've dropped you off in the middle of nowhere, and you are snowed in at a cozy woodland cabin. Which book would you hope to have with you now?
Well, part of me is still tempted to take The Binding. I actually still really like it, and I think it transcends desert islands and snowy
transcends
cabins.
Geography.
But I realize that's probably a boring answer. So I have, I think I would probably. So there's this author called C.G. Drews. They write YA, and they've also just recently released an adult book, which I haven't read yet. But their YA books are so beautifully written. So they write like a botanical horror type stuff. And one of them is about a boy who writes stories, and his friend draws them, and the drawings come to life in the forest outside their school, and they have to battle these monsters in the forest. And he is like this unreliable narrator, and it's just full of like teenage yearning and discovering yourself, and it's just, but the way that it's written is just so atmospheric, and it's just really beautiful descriptions. And when you finish something, you're like, I both loved and hated that, because it's so perfect.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a book I would take, and I'd probably take their second one, which I've just finished reading, which is called Hazelthorn, and that is about like a kind of like a garden that's slowly coming to life at the back of someone's old Gothic house, and that's just as beautiful, just as descriptive. So I really like the way that those are written, I think, and just like such cool concepts. Yeah, I wish that I was that clever.
Naomi Gibson and unreliable narrators, name a more iconic duo.
There you go. Can't help myself.
That first one is, I've got it up on my screen here, Don't Let the Forest In. That the first one? My God, what a cool cover.
It's amazing. It's so good. It's so
with the claws tearing through it and the flowers coming out of the tears.
Yeah.
Love that.
And inside the book, it's got the illustrations as well of what his friend is drawing, and the stories that the main character writes, and then the illustrations that his friend draws, and they're so unique, and they're so kind of horrible. It's really, like Pan's Labyrinth has got that kind of vibe. Like it's just sort of a little bit grotesque, a little bit uncanny. It's kind of like that. It's really clever.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds great, and I adore that cover that I'm looking at right now.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's a great pick. Next up, we are going to chat about being a career author, how things kind of work and change over the years in publishing. That will all be available along with all the other extended episodes at patreon.com/right and wrong.
Something goes wrong. I don't know. You're probably better off having background as to why it's gone wrong, or why it's been a success. So yeah.
Yeah. I think ask questions is generally good advice for life as well. Don't be afraid to ask questions.
Yeah, that's true.
And especially with publishing, like if you have an agent, I can understand why people are hesitant sometimes to ask the editor or the publisher something, but like just go ahead and ask your agent, or just ask your agent if it will be okay for you to ask the editor, and I'm sure it'll be fine, or they'll clarify it for you.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, amazing. That brings us to the end of the episode. So thank you so much, Naomi, for coming on and chatting with me, telling us all about your latest book, Man, Muse, Monster, which is out on the 23rd of April. It's always fun chatting with you.
Thank you so much, Jamie. Appreciate it.
And for anyone wanting to keep up with what Naomi is doing, you can find her on Instagram and TikTok at Naomi G Writes, or you can find her on her website, NaomiGibsonWrites.com. To support this podcast, follow and subscribe, join the Patreon for ad-free extended episodes, and get more with Naomi and Melissa on my other podcast, The Chosen Ones and Other Tropes. Thanks again to Naomi, and thanks to everyone listening. We will catch you on the next episode.